What up? And welcome to another episode of From the Script to the Screen. The Hell's Paradise edition. Going over episode 12 of this week. Jumping into volume 5. And so as always, I want to give a shout out to the creator, Yuji Kaku, and to the studio that's bringing us the great animation. Shout out to Mappa Studios. And my disclaimer, hope you've seen the episode as we will be discussing it and you might be spoiled. And this week, episode 12 covered chapters 37 through 40. They left a couple panels out of the end of volume 4, but since I think there's only one episode left of the season, I could understand why. I think that panel will be incorporated in the last episode coming up. But with that being said, let's get into the episode. Action-packed this week. But as always, they do give us a little bit of information. But the episode starts off with something that I expected to happen. Yuzu, the ninja that's left with Sagiri, who I assumed would run, the first sign of danger. And that's exactly what she did. We saw that the Tenzin popped up before, who we now know is called, and as always, my slogan, sorry if I'm messing up the pronunciation. His name is Jio Jun, but we see that he makes an appearance. And so she decides to run as soon as she sees him, seeing that she was able to understand that he was a threat, something more serious than what they've already been up against. But since she was the first one to run away, for some reason the Tenzin ended up building some type of infatuation with her, seeing how he already assumed that she was able to read and understand Tao. And we all know that a lot of the prisoners that are on this island are special people. And so we know that they've had some type of understanding with Tao, just weren't aware of it. And after their little scuffle, we see that this theory is indeed proven true. And he starts to describe how he might be able to teach her how to use Tao, something that Yuzu described as Chi. And so we all know that Tao is basically energy, just described in different ways and understood in different ways throughout different cultures. And we know that this island is I guess you could say, a big collection of ideologies. And so at this point, we understand that everybody has some type of understanding of Tao, just wasn't aware of it. And so with that being said, in this episode, we did see Yuzu give a deeper breakdown of her abilities. And so something I enjoyed seeing this week was we saw Yuzu explain that through Tao is how she's able to ingest different things and then is able to secrete them and use them in some type of junction with her abilities. So that's pretty cool. A manipulation of Tao, the Tenzin says. Something similar to the substitution technique that she uses. And we see why the Tenzin did become so infatuated with her. Just like Gabimaru, we see that the ninjas of this world are pretty much brought up with Tao. But it was also cool to see the executioner Senta finally step in. Sagiri herself was also surprised because she didn't expect to see him finally use his blade. But we did get a little bit of backstory on him. And so it was pretty cool because I think some people would relate to his backstory. Long story short, he's somebody that was thrown into this role, even though he was still able to fulfill his duty in some type of way. He's somebody that would have rather did something else. And so I'm sure some people could relate to that. And something that we did learn in this episode, to a lot of people's surprise, was that, again, a lot of the things that people thought were to be true on this island, we find out aren't true at all. More things that were just made up by what we know for sure is just the ruler of this island. somebody powerful, but is able to manipulate things to his will at full extent at this point. We learned that this elixir of life isn't true because this tan is not something consumable by humans. If they do consume it, they will turn into plants themselves, which is why, sidebar, I think the Chobe brother, Aza, who ate the creatures from last time, is starting to develop those mind-like symbols on his body. So we'll see what happens with that, but I can't say that this Tenzin is lying at this point, since we're starting to see that. Much to the disappointment of Hoko, who is the tree person that's with them. Because again, these are people that have been living their lives this whole time, thinking that they would reach some type of afterlife salvation if they did what this deity wanted them to do. And now the episode did end with a lot of twists and turns. I can say that, as always, shout out to Sagiri. We know that she's somebody that I would say would be the most comfortable with this Tao, because my theory, especially after seeing this fight and seeing how she was the one that was able to do the most damage to the Tenzin, is that she's somebody that always operated in this sort of middle way that we know helps you generate Tao. You know, not too weak, not too strong, but right in the middle. Since she lives her life this way, it might be why she is able to generate a type of Tao that the Tenzin aren't necessarily used to. It's the difference of you trying to learn the opposite end of the scale if you're already in the middle. So I think that's something that helped her in this battle. But again, we know that the Tenzin aren't pushovers, and so there was some tragedy at the end, but I did enjoy how the episode left off, because I feel like they couldn't have asked for better assistance. If I'm being honest, Sagiri would have to be my number 2 person that would be most comfortable with Tao. Number 1 being Shion. Who comes in at the episode and is already blind. So I can't wait to see how the season ends. I'm pretty sure the next couple battles are gonna be a sight to see, because again, the Tenzin somewhat sleep on the humans, but we see that they're starting to get the upper hand a little bit, like I said last week, and are starting to understand what they're up against. They might not be able to fight for long, but if they have numbers that are more comfortable with this Tao, it'll be able to change things. So we'll see what happens now that they actually want to get off the island, seeing as the reason that they're there is non-existent. But with that being said, let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode. We out.